One of the hardest parts of caring for an aging parent is when it feels like everything falls on you and your siblings aren't showing up in the same way. If you're helping an aging parent and trying to figure out what to do next, you're not alone. Hi, I'm Stacy, and welcome to the Aging Parent Guide. I work in healthcare, and I've also spent many years helping my own family navigate aging, illness, and major life transitions. And today, I want to talk about something that so many people are dealing with. What to do when it feels like all the responsibility falls on you. I think one of the reasons this is so hard is because it doesn't feel fair. You're showing up, you're handling appointments, you're thinking about safety, you're managing the emotional side of everything. And meanwhile, your sibling might be less involved, less available, or just not engaging in the same way. And it creates this feeling of, why is this all on me? This is something I've experienced too. I have a brother, and while he helps at times, a lot of the responsibility has fallen on me. And part of that is just our life situations. But that doesn't mean it's easy, because there have been moments where I've felt overwhelmed, frustrated, and honestly, a little resentful. And I think that's something people don't always say out loud. Before we talk about boundaries, it helps to understand why this happens, because it's not always just about someone not caring. Sometimes it's different schedules, different levels of awareness, avoidance, or even discomfort with the situation. And sometimes one person becomes the default caregiver, and then it just stays that way. When it comes to siblings, a boundary isn't about controlling what they do. It's about being clear on what you will and won't take on. A boundary is deciding what you can realistically carry and what you cannot. And that's really important, because without boundaries, you end up doing everything. For me, this meant having to step back and recognize I can't do everything. And I can't keep taking more on just because someone else isn't stepping in. That realization didn't happen overnight. It came from feeling overwhelmed enough to know something had to change. This is the part most people struggle with. And what do you actually say? Instead of, you never help, try, I can't manage all of this on my own anymore. We need to figure out how to share responsibilities. Or, I'm feeling overwhelmed and I need more support. Be specific, such as, can you take on scheduling appointments? Or can you handle communication with the doctor? People respond better to clarity and specific tasks. I also think it's really important to recognize help doesn't have to look the same for everyone. Because one of the biggest challenges with siblings is assuming that help has to be equal, when in reality, it just needs to be shared. And sometimes that starts with being really honest about how this is affecting you. Not just logistically, but financially, mentally, and emotionally. So instead of saying, I need help, you might say something like, I'm starting to feel really overwhelmed trying to manage all of this on my own. It's affecting me in ways I didn't expect, and I need more support. Because sometimes your sibling doesn't fully understand what it's costing you. And then getting specific about what help could actually look like. Because help doesn't always mean being physically present. It could look like scheduling appointments, setting up rides through Uber or Lyft, arranging grocery deliveries, or helping pay for a part-time caregiver, or even doing research like looking into Medicaid, finding doctors, or helping to explore care options. And sometimes there may be another family member who is in a better position to help more. Support doesn't have to look the same, but it does need to exist. The goal isn't to make everything perfectly equal. It's to make it more sustainable. There's also something else I think is really important to acknowledge, and this can be a hard one to hear. Sometimes the way we're showing up in the situation can actually make it harder for siblings to get involved. And I've seen this a lot, both personally and working in healthcare, where one person takes on the primary caregiver role, and over time they become very overwhelmed, very stressed, and sometimes very controlling. And again, that's not coming from a bad place. It's coming from pressure, responsibility, and trying to hold everything together. But from the outside, it can feel like there's no room for anyone else to step in, or that nothing they do is good enough. And sometimes siblings will pull back, not because they don't care, but because they don't want to deal with that dynamic. Or they feel like they'll be criticized or corrected, or that their help won't actually be appreciated. And I think it's important to just pause and ask yourself, am I leaving room for someone else to help? That doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It just means this situation is complicated. And sometimes improving communication isn't just about asking for help. It's also about making it easier for someone to step in. People are more likely to help when they feel like they can succeed. This is the hardest part because sometimes, even after you communicate clearly, they still don't step up. And that's where another boundary comes in. A boundary isn't just what you say, it's what you do next. That might mean not stepping in every time, letting things be shared responsibility, or accepting that you can't control their choices. There's a lot of emotion here: frustration, resentment, sometimes guilt, because you care and you don't want things to fall apart. But carrying everything alone isn't sustainable. This is something I've had to come to terms with. You can't make someone show up in the way that you want them to, but you can decide what you're willing to continue doing. If you feel like everything has fallen on you, you're not the only one. This is one of the most common and most difficult parts of caregiving. And setting boundaries isn't about creating distance. It's about making this sustainable. If you're dealing with this, I'd really love to hear your experience in the comments, because I know a lot of people are going through this and don't talk about it. And if you want more guidance on what to do next, I've created videos on helping a parent who won't accept help and navigating difficult family dynamics. I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe so you don't miss it.